Hey, it's Chuck Armstrong with Loudwire Nights, and this is Loudwire Nights On Demand. It was a blast chatting with Jake Diab, frontman for Autumn Kings, about their new song, Sleep When I'm Dead, and all that is on the horizon for them. This first aired on Tuesday, April 16th. Let's go. I love watching a new band take the rock world by storm, man. And that's exactly what Autumn Kings have been doing over the last couple of months with their brand new track, Sleep When I'm Dead. And so tonight, I am beyond excited to welcome frontman and songwriter for Autumn Kings to the show, Jake Diab. Thank you for hanging, man.
Thank you so much, good sir. Appreciate it.
So you and co-vocalist Joe Cochimiglio met while working at a grocery store in the Detroit area. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It was actually in Windsor in Canada, right across the pond. Joe was stacking bananas on the shelf and I was a cashier. Neither of us were so savvy at those gigs, but we met during one of the lunch breaks and my old band was getting some airplay on a radio station. Joe was kind of impressed and intrigued by it. And we sort of sat there and BS'd and talked about music. Hey, we should jam sometime. Kind of one of those empty promises that every musician makes when they first meet another musician. Yeah. Never happened. Oh, a year later, I see this guy come up on my Facebook. Incredible voice. I'm like, that guy looks really familiar. Is that Joe from Freshco? And no word of a lie, this was maybe 2014, 2015. I had an iPhone at the time. I dug up my old BlackBerry when I took his number from that time we met at Freshco, found a number on the BlackBerry, transferred it onto my iPhone, texted him, hey, dude, you remember me from Freshco? Yeah. You want to come over and jam in 2 days? And I gave him a list of 24 songs to learn to see if he was serious about doing it. And he learned all 24 songs within 48 hours. And that's how I knew we were meant to be in a band together.
That's amazing, man. That's such a wild hilarious story.
Yeah,
I love that. You know, when you guys first met at the grocery store, like, did you feel sort of some sort of connection there, even though you'd never jammed right after that? Did you feel kind of like there was something there? Yeah,
that's a really interesting question. Well, so Joe is the nicest guy I've ever met on earth. No ego. And you've heard 1,000,001 horror stories about bands where they're very talented, but the chemistry just didn't work, or there'd be infighting about a million different reasons. I can say in absolute honesty that Joe and I have never had an issue like that. And I attribute it to his easygoingness and having no ego. And when we met at Freshco, even just the way he would look at me and say hi and converse, I could tell the guy had charisma. And he was like it makes sense that he is an artist and a creative type and co-fronting a band with me. So there was that part of it.
I love that, man. So you guys have been doing this for, nearly a decade, right? If you text him in 14, 15 and started jamming, you released your debut album, Silver Screens, in 17. And in 2022, you released a follow-up, Book of the Broken. Last year, you released, I would say, a really powerful Unplugged album. And here we are celebrating this song. Like I said, I think it's taken the rock world by storm, Sleep When I'm Dead. Right. You've said that this song speaks to the relentless hustler's voice inside all of us, which I would say must be inside of you. Is this song a bit autobiographical when you think about it like that?
Totally. It's totally autobiographical. And it's funny, you mentioned 8 or 9 years of being a band, and Sleep When I'm Dead speaks to that. We all went through what we went through in 2020, and we don't have to go through all the details again, but it was tough, of course. And as an independent band who hadn't made it over that proverbial, I guess you'd say, cliff or hump, to get to the other side of the music industry, we felt like we were just there and all the momentum was stripped from our feet. And we had no idea how to navigate it. We're all in our early 20s, mid 20s. How do we handle this? And it came down to nothing logical, nothing to do with your intelligence. It was simply that emotional decision and that will to keep pushing forward. And Sleep When I'm Dead speaks to that. And it doesn't matter what domain of life you're in, if you're a single mother with 4 kids and, your man just left you or whatever the case may be. For us, it was just figuring out a way for this band to become self-sufficient and survive with no management, no agent, no record label, really no buzz around the band. And parents thinking you're crazy. Both of my parents are business people. They both have business degrees. They're looking at me like, dude, what are you doing right now? When are you going to start making money? I said, don't worry, you'll find out. It's all good. Faith. Trust. God's got a plan for me. And it ended up working out. We got management. Everything is starting to happen. And it feels like it all starts to happen at once. It's really crazy, 8.5 years, 9 years. And now we're starting to feel like, I always tell people, it's not just me like waving my hands up in the air saying, no, this is going to work. This is going to work. It's finally starting to work. There's evidence, and Sleep When I'm Dead just speaks to that journey.
I love that, man. And I love hearing that too. Cause there's lyrics in the song that go like, money is irrelevant. fame isn't part of it. And so, even as you say that about your parents, or, just think about what, whatever friends might be saying, or what the expectations of the world around you, I love hearing that story that you just shared, and then thinking about, this song is I mean, it's ingrained in the band. Like, it's not about the money, it's not about the fame. That's going to come, and it's already coming maybe, but that's not what has driven you for the last 8 years, 9 years.
Yes.
And so as you hear that, as I say that, what's driving you now, as these things start falling into place, because that's what you wanted to push yourselves over that edge. So what's pushing you? What's driving you now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And for me, I've thought really long and hard about this. Like a lot of artists, I think we tend to feel things really deeply and can be very philosophical. And I've learned that it's exactly right. The money is a byproduct of bringing value to people and pursuing excellence and being able to resonate with people. So I've literally spent time, this was actually last year, when we went through COVID, I went through a little bit of a health issue, and I sat down and I said, who am I, and what do I stand for, and what do I believe in? And one of the things is the pursuit of excellence is the number one thing in my life that I like to pursue, with family, with music, with my body, with health, with my mental health. And so the thing that keeps us going now with 40 songs under our belt is making better songs and better. And what does better mean? It's subjective, of course, but striving lyrically for the wordplay to be better, for the meaning of the songs to be more clear, for us to step outside of the box of what we hear within active rock and what's on the charts and sort of the typical thing that's easy to do that will service the format, and think outside the box. I'm half Lebanese, so I grew up with Arabic songs in my car, and I would incorporate some Middle Eastern influences. And I'm also half Macedonian, so those Eastern European influences, and sort of just expanding what we're able to do musically, and always making sure that we are pursuing excellence and we're doing better than we did on the last record. And that's not only with the music, but it's with the way we speak to fans and the sort of value we can give to fans outside of the music too. So it's all that.
I love that, man. Well, and as you think too about, you guys have been doing this for 8-9 years, and that's what's driving you now. And, if you take a step back and look at the bands you like, or the bands I like the bands that are still doing it today and still doing it well, it's because of that pursuit of excellence, right? Like Judas Priest just released an album 50 years after their debut, and it sounds just as good. Like it's crazy, man. Nobody has any business releasing a record like that 50 years later, but there's no question that they have stayed committed to that pursuit of excellence.
Well, that's exactly right. And, my favorite band, and I understand you're a big Metallica fan too, is Metallica. That is the band that got me into music. And when I'd say between 12 and 16, I was just enamored by the musicianship of guys like James and Lars and Kirk, Rob, and then Shinedown and Five Finger Death Punch. But what I learned as we got into the music business, not just the music, is that there's always at least one person in every band who had this vision and who worked their butts off. And Lars and Metallica was the guy there, right? Zoltan and Five Finger, Barry and Shinedown behind the scenes. He's quiet, but he does the work. Steve and I Prevail. There's always somebody who has that entrepreneurial thinking and the music, which is what makes it an all-consuming job. But thankfully, we love it. And thankfully, I like to pursue excellence. And just another point to touch on with the question you asked is, whatever money comes or goes, I don't care. Like, we can't get moved by the money. So if the band has a huge hit next record, that's great. And then people are complimenting us, buttering us up. People that used to never answer our emails or calls are calling. That's great. It feels good. But the challenge is to maintain some healthy level of detachment, where if all that gets stripped from us again, as you hear of it happening with artists, it doesn't change the respect we have for creating good music. So that comes back to the pursuit of excellence. And I think guys like Judas Priest and Lars and even Mick Jagger, they don't care. They know this record isn't going to be as big as Master of Puppets, but they're still doing it as if they could, right?
Yeah.
So
and they're still giving it all they've got. Like, there's no question about that.
Right.
And, as we think about that too, or as we talk about that, I think of the band Linkin Park, and you guys have been compared to Linkin Park quite a bit. And in fact, on that Unplugged album last year, you guys did a beautiful cover of Linkin Park's Numb. And even, I see that band even today. Obviously, they are not a band, or they're not active, and yet we still celebrate so much of Linkin Park, and we still get new music that gets unearthed and taken off the shelves. And there's something special about a band that can do that. And clearly, you guys have found a connection with Linkin Park, and I'm curious, what is that like? Is that something that the whole band has rallied around? Is that like, what is it about Linkin Park that kind of drew that connection for you guys?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about Linkin Park is that when they came up in the early 2000s, they took chances that I think went beyond what any of their contemporaries were taking chances, like in terms of musically. And I see Mike Shinoda. I mean, between him and Chester, that dynamic, the fact that they had two drastically different voices that worked that well together was, of course, impressive. They were able to touch on really heavy, serious lyrical themes, which Joe and I and Troy, we're actually very optimistic, happy people, but the kind of style we write in leans much more serious. And I think Linkin Park did that so freaking well. And the way they incorporated hip hop and other elements, and Mike's exceptional skills at navigating Pro Tools and engineering and mixing, in addition to being a rapper and multi-instrumentalist, all of that was really, really inspiring. And with the unique music chances they took, every song was still hooky, like one listen hooky. So they really cared about having melodies that stuck. And that's something that this band really values too. We want every song you listen to be one listen, you'll fall in love with it. But then if you think deeper and you actually pay attention to the lyrics mean something. I actually just heard Numb on the radio on the way to the studio today, and I was absorbing the lyrics. And I've known this song for 20 years. And it hit me how the lyrics all made perfect sense. And it was one unified story. You're just enamored by the melody, the production, the sonics, the voice. And then you realize how much effort they put into the lyrics. And it's that combination of them caring about every single thing. I even heard Linkin Park say in an interview, they'll write like 40 or 50 songs and they will viciously scrutinize every single one. And anything that's less than what they feel is 100%, they leave it out. That's why when they put out Lost and Fighting Myself, we're all listening to it and thinking, dude, these are hits. How did that not come out in Meteora? But for them, they had Numb already. And that song was 5% not as strong in their opinion. And that discipline for having great music is what we look up to in Linkin Park.
I love that, man. And not to dwell too much on the darkness of Chester and losing Chester, but it's interesting to me too that you guys released your debut album in 2017, the same year that we lost Chester. And so even that, like, you talk about the production, the music, the sound, the lyrics, like there's just also this sort of, untangible, I don't know if that's a word, but this deep connection that you can't feel or you can't quantify in the midst of all of that too, which, for me as a fan, like when I see those kind of connections, I don't know, it just kind of gets me excited to kind of think of this rock world and how intricate and connected it all is.
Totally. Yeah. It's very intricate and connected. And one of the things I love about the rock community is I always give this example. My brother, who I love to death, is more of a pop mainstream fan. So if I were to tell him, hey, Ben, I've got a new artist that I want to show you, I think they're really good, he'll say, how popular are they? Like, do they have whereas if you show a rock fan a new band, their first question is going to be, what do they sound like? Let's hear the music. So the rock people really care about the art first, and they're a little less concerned about the hype. They care more about the music. And I'm so grateful for that. The rock fans have given us a chance and a start, and we're from the Detroit area. So it's not particularly difficult to get people in the Detroit area to take a new chance on bands. And that's really helped us, sort of just kickstart the Autumn Kings beast.
So what's on the horizon for 2024, man?
2024 is lots of new music. We have 6 or 7 fully finished new productions that people haven't heard yet. Expect some touring in the fall, not 100%, but that's what we're looking at. And now we're hitting this point where we've been independent for so long, doing everything ourselves. And now with the support of people like you and the overall radio support of Sleep When I'm Dead and everything that's sort of happening now, is we are assembling the team behind the scenes. Lots of conversations with labels and agents and different sorts of people. And we're working with our management to feel through all that so that we can make this thing as efficient as possible when we get out on the road and tour. And right now, for us, we're just focused deeply on writing the best songs we can and stacking up the unreleased material to be released ASAP.
Awesome, man. Jake Diab, thank you so much for hanging tonight. Congrats on everything, man, that's led up to this point and everything that's coming on the horizon this year. Like I said, we are loving Sleep When I'm Dead, and kind of like you hearing Numb 20 years later, like every single time I listen to Sleep When I'm Dead, it seems like I pick up on something new. Maybe it's a lyric or just a sound, but it kind of gets deeper and deeper in me. And I love that, man. So we got to have you back on the show soon. We got to keep hanging as you release more and more music and hit the road, man.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Chuck. This was a wonderful interview, and appreciate the time and all the respect in the world to you and Loudwire. Huge fan.
That wraps up this episode of Loudwire Nights on Demand. Stay caught up with everything happening in the world of rock and metal on the Loudwire app and at loudwire.com.